Shu, it's great to see you. How have you been? And it's been a while since you left Sony now. What some of the things you've been up to?
Yeah, well, surprisingly, I've been so busy this year. I wasn't anticipating, and it's been amazing. I was at Sony for so many years, and I had fun working with many people in the industry, and people are nice, and but all the time I wasn't sure people were nice because I was at the very, high end of
Mhm.
Sony,
Yeah.
big platform. So people, do business and like to be nice to company, people like that. Or, people just like me. So when I left the company, became freelance, many of the people I knew and I know and I liked asked me to work together. So that's amazing. So
That's cool.
what I've
Yeah.
been doing is I've been, staying in the scene because I love indie games and like to do something for these, especially young, developers. So I've been advising four companies now to indie publishers and to indie developers, and I'm doing random, taking random questions from developers. They send me like a pitch deck or a prototype and ask me my opinions, and I've been giving them impromptu, feedback. My feedback is always direct and make it clear that if something is wrong with the things, I tell them, and it's up to them if they take my word or not. But oftentimes they appreciate my feedback. And I've been attending events, indie-focused events. This year, I skipped the GDC and Gamescom, and I felt great. so that I was able to, so that I was able to go to events like Busan Indie
Mm.
Connect or this summit, Tokyo Indie Game Summit, Taipei Game Show, all these, indie-focused
Yes.
event, and meet with developers and find, nice indie games and, again, give them feedback. So I've been busy working with the indie publishers and developers that I respect and I've known for a long time. And and I've been showing up in many, podcasts or
Mm,
interviews that you may have seen some of them. And
sure.
now I don't have to ask for an approval from PR department to do that. And I
Yeah.
can talk about any topics, right? I can talk about Nintendo Switch 2 or Game Pass or, Steam Deck or whatever.
That's cool.
So I'm having super fun, and
Yeah.
I've been keeping myself super busy. Oh, yeah. And there are so many indie events, and within the events, there's always an award, right?
Mm.
And,
Mhm.
and so many events organizers ask me to be on the jury
Mm.
for the
Mhm.
judges for the award. So I keep getting like 10 games, 20 games, hundreds of games to go through and give score. Like a Tokyo Game Show, there's a corner in the area. We select 80 games to give out space,
Mm.
for free for developers. And this year we had 1,300 over submissions. And we had to go through all these games. And of course, we
Wow.
cannot play all of them. So mostly
Mm.
watching trailers. But I went through like 700 trailers
Mm.
to,
Oh my
give them scores and discuss with other judges to
Uh,
select 80
Actually,
games. And that was fun, but that was so hard.
yeah,
I spent so
absolutely.
many weekends dedicated to do that.
I actually have a question about that because the Japanese indie scene is one that we haven't heard much about historically. I think the indie scene as we know it is really sort of a Western scene, whereas when we talk
Yeah,
about Japan, we're typically talking
yeah,
about the larger publishers. Has that been
yeah,
changing in the last few years in the indie development
yeah,
scene in Japan? Is that transforming?
yeah, rapidly, last 3 or 4 years. Like many things in Japan, Japanese companies look at other people, right? And if one company is doing something that they feel like they should be doing, they do that. So rapidly, suddenly, there are so many new indie publishers spawning up in Japan, whether it's a new group of people from the industry or the established companies from other industry, like Shueisha or Kodansha or Palco. Do you know about Palco? It's
Yeah.
a store. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Shochiku, they do kabuki. So all these media companies and similar like a content company or even Tokyo Fudosan is a real estate companies. And they got into indie publishing because that's something they should be doing that they feel. So there are so many new publishers funding and supporting indie developers in Japan. And there are other activities like Marvelous been doing the incubation program, amazing incubation program called IGI, Indie Game Incubation. And it's their fifth year, and they have helped many good, games to help them learn about how to do things in the industry. So every year, and of course, new events. So there's a big summit. There's a TGS right in the areas. Now there's a Tokyo Indie Game Summit in March in Kichijoji. It's growing. It's their third year. And last year, no, last week, I was in Osaka to attend Osaka Indie Game Summit. It's the Osaka version of Tokyo Indie Game Summit. So it's their first year. It's the first major game event in Osaka. So
No
there are
way.
lots of people. And, it's great. So I am asked to become official supporter of the event. So I attended and did like opening talk or something like that. So so all these things happening rapidly now in Japan.
That's amazing.
When you see a game early, Shu, you mentioned there you were looking at 700 submissions, and over your career, you have frequently championed the so many games, and you see them at such an early stage. What is it what springs out to you, and what makes it, that's Shu's pick, that is going to be big? What is the X factor when you see a game these days? And
Well,
how has that changed
yeah, so there's so
over
many
time?
games being proposed or developed, right? So you think that all these ideas have been already been tried and implemented, but it's not. Every year you see something. Oh, why didn't anyone think about this? Like this year, came out a game called Word Game. I don't know if you have seen because it's a game graphics only made of Chinese kanji. So the game came out 3 years ago with Chinese language, and the everything is a character, Chinese character, and Chinese character that means I is your playable character. So you move this, one character I in Chinese, and you put this at the beginning of like a sentence, and that sentence becomes reality. You go to the character gate, that gate opens, or something like that. It's amazing.
That sounds
And after
awesome.
3 years, a very adventurous developer in Japan created a Japanese version because Japanese also include the language, include the Chinese kanji character, Chinese character, but the grammars are different. Some of the meaning of the characters are different. So the developer almost felt that it's impossible to localize. So what he did was to work with the original creator to almost created a new game based on the same kind of mechanic for the Japanese version. So something like that happens every year to see, well, it's amazing. So, so what I look for always is this something I've seen before? And nine out of 10 times it's like that, right? Oh, this is Metroidvania, this is, roguelike, or this is Vampire Survivor,
Deck builder, deck builder, deck builder.
deck builder. Yeah, it's all great, but occasionally something interesting, something new comes up.
Well, speaking of that, I'd love to hear how you got involved with in Dreams and working on Reach, the
Yeah.
VR game. How did that come about?
Yeah. So you may have noticed I was I was a big promoter of VR. Like when we launched the original PlayStation VR in 2016. I was involved in the actual development of hardware, and I was leading the game development for PlayStation at that time. So we worked on many VR games. You remember that Shark demo, right? That was amazing, and it was so fun to watch people try that Shark demo for the first time or something like that. So I've been tracking the VR scene, and when I worked at Sony, because they are platformer, they regularly meet with the publishers and developers, and they present to Sony people their roadmap of games. And in Dreams, he's one of the survivors of the VR game development. And because they have made so many VR games, they get just better and better. And a few years ago, their game, Synapse, was an amazing VR game if you have tried. It was a game for PSVR 2, and PSVR 2 has the eye tracking.
Yeah.
So you are able to just look at the enemy at the top and grab it and pull him down or shoot him up. And, it's amazing VR experience they created. And Reach is the next game. So I saw the Reach at the very early stage of development 2 or 3 years ago, because they are showing all the new games to Sony people. And they kind of, use me as a test player to see if their new mechanic works. So I tried, and the first time, I struggled to make like a jump or something graphical or something like that. Repeatedly, and they're like, we should do something. Because developers know how things work, right? So they assume that people will be able to pick up. But it's so hard to interpret movement, gesture, because VR game, the input or movement of head that, hands. But sometimes people do not do the things that developer want them to do. So every time I met with in Dreams team at GDC or Gamescom, I tried the game. So I followed the development of Reach, from the very early stage. And when I left the company in January this year, they asked me to be the ambassador or evangelist of the game, because now I'm freelance. So I'm like, yeah, I'll be very happy to do. Oh, by the way, Tom Giro, the new CEO from In Dreams, used to be a producer at the London studio.
Yeah,
So
right.
he was producing games like
That makes sense.
iToy or PSVR games.
Sure.
So I worked with him closely. So he's like a friend.
Yeah, right.
So I'm very happy to be
Perfect.
able to help one of my friends.
And
still
anyone-
pushing VR.
For anyone who's not familiar with the game, could you sort of explain what it is? Like explain Reach for someone who's never really seen it before, like what's special about it?
Yeah, Reach is like action adventure game that you feel like you become action hero, like you become Nathan Drake. So you run down and jump and make a big reach into the areas and climb and shoot. And it's amazing how they came up with the mechanic so that you can do almost inhuman way to traverse within the large 3D environment. Like a grapple hook, there's a green color bar in the environment, and you can just grab it from afar and pull it yourself into that bar. And it's amazing, huge jump you can do like that. So while you are grabbing onto the bar, and you can use the other, hand to throw your shield and throwing seal, you can hit the enemy or something like that. So the combination of tools that's available, and you can make a huge jumps or traversal in 3D space, and the combat is used the bow and arrow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a really fascinating way to feel like you are jumping around in this big environment, and you feel like you are a superhero to be able to beat up lots of enemies.
Does it have
Yeah.
Does it have the because one of the things I struggle with is I do get motion sickness when I do VR. Does it have
Me too.
anything in place to reduce that? Because it sounds like it's one of those games that just a lot of movement. So is there anything to take the edge off that?
Yeah. That's where their experience of designing VR games come in. So what they have done is, when you make a jump in a game in Reach, you push a button, one of the controllers, and flick up your arm, like you do. So by doing this, your brain thinks you're jumping, just moving. So that feels, and the character jumps. So that feels so natural. So what you do, or even small a gesture, like you grab onto the bar and you quickly like this, and you shoot yourself up. But it just makes sense in your brain because you aim, look up, and pull down, and you jump. And so when what you see in game or in VR and what your gesture, body movement has a mismatch, that makes you feel sick. So Reach designers came up with a very smart way to really minimize that kind of mismatching. So that playing Reach actually allows me to play Reach for like 2 hours nonstop, no problem. So
nice.
Yeah.
You're a big proponent of VR. How do you think the VR gaming landscape is faring at the moment? What do you think the challenges are for it?
Yeah, well, challenge. It's it's been a many years of challenge, and lots of money came in at the beginning of the launch of Oculus and PSVR, and Valve system disappeared. But those companies who were successful stayed and kept releasing better and better games. So the company is still, developing new VR games like Dreams or Survios, are real masters of the media. And the hardware just gets better and better, and the system performance just gets better and better, and devices like sensors and screens just get better. That all helps you have a better experience and easier experience, because one of the deterrent of VR games is the motion sickness, like we are saying. But now when screens higher resolution and the game is having higher frame rate and the graphics looks better, that all helps. And the new generation gamers, I understand, that have come in on MetaQuest devices.
Yes.
That I hear lots of young people playing games like Gorilla Tag and these lower graphics but really social experience, because being with some other people in the same VR space together is very compelling. The social aspect is really, really strong element of VR tech. So I don't think that will, disappear. There are many new games now. Even in Dreams have started spawned a new studio dedicated to create more casual social experience for these younger audience. So there's with the system capability increasing and developers experience, just curating these companies will keep producing high-end games like Reach, but other group of developers, including these established VR developers, are providing new experience, social experience for these new, younger audience. And the devices can just get better, and AR or XR capability is really amazing. It just looks like wearing glass in terms of pass through, color pass through,
Yeah.
and that really puts you, grounded in real life, be able to do things so that eliminate the feeling of loneliness or being detached from the world. So all different angles, the medium is keep making progress. And as long as company like Meta keep investing in these tech and contents, I think, it's kind of slow but steady progress will continue.
Yeah. Do you think that progress is towards a bigger sort of mass market VR landscape where like many people are using VR? Or do you think it's more towards a niche category that's very well serviced by high quality products and a smaller software library? Like, where do you think VR is in 10 years' time?
I think, like I said, in all directions, it's growing and it will continue to grow. And in the high end, will become even more amazing experience. And especially these will help make the like a location-based VR experience even more compelling. So companies who have the like IPs, they want to recreate the beautiful world they have created for movies and all these IPs will continue to find VR location-based VR experience to take advantage of this advancement of technology. But in terms of mass adoption, I think with continuation of this social, VR experience, especially with these, UGC platform like a Rec Room or Roblox, just, allowing people to participate in this, community of creating space and sharing experience. It's like the metaverse that Meta always wanted to create, already being kind of realized by these software companies. So that, especially if companies are able to provide good, high quality devices at a reasonable, cheaper price,
Sure.
I think adoption will just continue to
Yeah.
grow.
And I think interested to hear your sort of broader thoughts on industry innovation and investment. But before that, just a very quick question specific to PSVR 2, because obviously that's a device that I think Sony has stepped away from a fair amount in terms of their investment in first party and even third party offerings. You know, how do you see that right now? Do you think that that is a smart call based upon the current landscape? Would you say actually, it needs more investment and that they might see some return if they double down there? How do you see the Sony's investment in PSVR 2 right now?
Well, PSVR 2 system is, I was involved when I was at Sony, when for really realizing the high-end experience to push forward the VR medium, like adoption of, eye tracking before any other companies. And some companies like in Dreams made use of that technology to show what VR could do. And as far as I'm concerned, I get lots of tweets every day, and it feels like people who have bought into PSVR 2, invested in this system, have been having really great time. Even though first party kind of stopped releasing new game, there are stream of new good games coming out from third parties, whether it's supported by Sony or not. And I think that will still continue because companies who make games VR games, not just for the lower end social experience for, Meta Quest. They would, try to recruit from as many platforms as possible. And people who own the PSVR 2 are the dedicated, VR experience. And they are very excited by the announcement that was made recently that Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming out. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of application that higher end system like PSVR 2 benefits by creating amazing vista while you are kind of, driving the plane. So I don't know about, their plans for the future, but I think what they have done by investing in PSVR 2, I hope, was a positive contribution to the overall industry. I hope.
Sure.
You mentioned Xbox there. I think that's a good segue to talk about a lot of the Xbox news and just what the landscape looks like for consoles in general right now. We're coming off, for those at home, this is the Monday. Over the weekend, there were all the rumors that Xbox is bowing out of the console race. Costco's not selling Xboxes anymore. I'm really interested in your take as someone who worked for a platform, in fact, the direct competitor to Xbox for so long. What your take is on their position in the console space right now.
Well, they now they are now calling PC Xbox, right? Yeah, it looks like they all shifted their strategy to PC, and that's great. That makes sense. They have a Windows system as well. So it's and then they have gone multi-platform, right? Microsoft is the biggest publisher on PlayStation platform, I think.
Yes.
So they they have really invested in Game Pass. I don't understand why they have to raise the price of Game Pass so much, but so they have totally gone their own way in terms of platform strategy, and PC is their thing going forward, and their service, whatever they define, will be called Xbox, and try to convince that you should participate in this Xbox ecosystem. Oh, by the way, I pre-ordered Rogue Ally X.
You pre-ordered the Rogue Ally X. Tell us why. What interests you about that?
Like
What interests you?
$1,000 is a ridiculous price for console. However, I'm a gadget, otaku, right? I've been buying portable gaming PC almost every year. I have 6 or 7 of them. And from that standpoint, $1,000 is pretty reasonable with latest CPU, GPU, and their UI makes it easier to start a game and find game. And I was able to try the form factor at Summer Game Fest, and it feels great. It's like a PS Portal, right? You chop the controller, and put the display in between.
It's much heavier.
Great.
It's much heavier.
Heavier than Portal, but still, feels like game system. So, so I'm waiting for it to come because I have so many, like yourself, hundreds of Steam games and Epic Store games. I log into Epic Store every week.
You get the free games?
Get the free game.
Playing,
Gotta
free
do
game. All these games, I can play on Rogue X.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm an Xbox fan, I can say.
Yeah, right. And so, and in terms of the journey that the overall console landscape is going to go on in the next 10 years, are you optimistic about that future? Because obviously you've got the Switch, which is focused on handheld and Nintendo first party. You've got Sony, which is now looking to be the box underneath your television, and occupying that space. And you've got Xbox, which seems to be this kind of hybrid model that's sort of PC and third-party publishing and subscription service, yada. that overall
Mhm.
landscape, does that excite you? And do you think there are good things ahead, or do you think actually there's more disruption and it's not there's not much to look forward to over the next decade when it comes to the platforms?
Well, so yeah, it's super interesting because all three companies went different ways.
Yes.
Nintendo Switch, I mentioned Switch 2 is exactly what everyone anticipated. So it's a bit boring, but it's really great system, especially from portable gaming PC otaku myself. The thinness of lightness of
Crazy.
Switch 2 is amazing. They've done amazing design with the system. So they continue to thrive. The PlayStation is the most interesting thing because the Moore's law has kind of matured, right? So you don't get as much benefit by taking time. So the graphics has almost hit to the level that even I cannot tell the difference between the some of the graphics, capability, like ray traced or not ray traced, unless it's side by side or, higher frame rate. So PlayStation clearly, in my mind, I have zero, information about their plans, but clearly they just cannot do the same thing they have been doing, is increasing the graphics power and providing the high-end experiences. They might just do that, but still, that feels like a niche audience right now. So there's a rumor that they might be doing portable, like if they can do a portable with PS5 and PS4 compatibility, that may be very attractive to all these people who have libraries of games on PS4 and PS5. But I don't know. So I think it's really fitting that PlayStation has a new generation of management. Nishino-san in his 40s. He's like 46 years old, so much younger generation. Up until Jim Ryan, it's always been like our generation, the first generation of PlayStation in managing, leading the company. But now Nishino and Herman is much younger generation, so they can do something disruptive. They don't have to follow what they've been doing. So yeah, it's super interesting. Their next step.
You mentioned Sony, they can't just keep increasing the graphics. What do you think they can do? Because it does feel different now because those games come fewer, like bigger gaps between them, and then we have other massive audiences that are just going to play Fortnite or Call of Duty forever. So what do you think Sony can do?
For myself, I think PS5 is an amazing system in terms of quality of experience. I think the adoption of the SSD was like almost miracle. Like I was talking about, when playing a Souls-like game like Sekiro on PS4, it's hard, right? And you get beaten by the boss. And next, you have to wait for a long load time. And that's almost the game telling you, you suck, you don't deserve, go away. Right?
Think about what you did.
Yeah. So that long load time is the message that, I don't deserve. However, PS5, it's instant, right? To come back to games. So I think PS5 and SSD has made almost every game a better game. Let people to continue playing and more engaged. And so, Sony and Matsani, they are so brilliant in designing and devising, creating systems that people can really enjoy. Like PS4 works really well. When it was announced, including myself, who wants that? But once you get hold of it, it works. It is very convenient to play games on my bed. So hopefully they have been cooking something that we don't know about. That's when we get hold of it. It's, oh yeah, this is great. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Well, Shu, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry, my cat is also joining us. We hope to speak to you again soon.
Yes. Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
me.
much. Thank you.
Bye.